What the? No, I'm just getting started. Almost forgot the most important part. Hello, testing. One, two, three. Testing. All right, man. You see us on Facebook already? Uh, mhm, mhm. I thought I was going to have our music playing, but I don't know if I can get that going. That's what I was working on, is trying to get our intro music to be playing while we were doing that. But let me stop this too. I don't know if they can actually hear us while we're in the onset of doing all this. But where's your video? All right. Let me get my drinky drink. I think I work on my lighting too. My lighting is horrible. Let me get another lamp in here. I don't know. Well, don't. But okay. Well, let's get this going. Ready whenever you are. Let's get it. Yeah, I don't think I need- Well, I got the NFL shirt on, so maybe that'll get us a little bit of some publicity from some big ESPN affiliates or something. All right, I'm ready to get ready to rock and roll. I'm gonna change output in here into that, and we are now full screen here. And alrighty. Hey guys, welcome. Welcome to another episode of Drinks and Discussions. It has been a long, long time, and I appreciate you guys joining us on Facebook. And we're also coming to you live from YouTube. We are Drinks and Discussions on our new YouTube channel. That's Drinks Discussions. Drinks space discussions on YouTube. Hope to find us there. Hope to see you guys there on one of the channels there on Facebook or YouTube. Tonight, alongside myself, Brian, we've got Trey, who will be co-hosting with me this evening. We have a lot to talk about. We've got a lot of sports to cover and some sports related topics to discuss as well. But as we do all the time, let's get right into what we are drinking. Trey, what you got on the table today? Hmm, all right. Okay. Uh, okay. Well, you know what? We've got my favorite tonight. I'm gonna go with you, and maybe this is a teaching moment. I don't know. You just let me know. My favorite is Basil Hayden. Basil Hayden is a really good bourbon. I always think as I've grown, and I used to be a Jack Daniels drinker as well. Um, but after I've gone through some of the other bourbons and higher uh, level of whiskeys, Jack Daniels just burns me when it goes down. I've never tried this. I'll give it to you. I've never tried the honey, but the original Jack Daniels is not something that I actually can drink anymore. And we tried it on the golf course once recently, and it was disgusting. So Basil Hayden, it is an actual strap around the bottle. It goes all the way around. Yeah, yeah. It's a corked bottle, so you still can maintain that flavor in there, and it's delicious. Cheers, brother. Here's to a good podcast. Mm. So we say that we're having problems on our audio. Let me see if we can adjust that right now. Go ahead and talk again, Trey. Let's see if we got your voice coming in. Let's see. That's not working there. Let me see if we can adjust that. Huh. I know we had this thing going last time. Talk again. It's the properties, right? When you go into the properties. And I used choose mine, right? The one I had on there. Do a mic check. Let's go again. Yeah. Yep. 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 Try that. Try again.
Test,
That's
test.
it. There we go. We're good.
There we
Hope you
go.
guys can hear us. Thank you, Miss Melissa. She's always a big watcher of our podcast, so thank you for catching that. And I appreciate you for putting that in the chat. And by the way, we see some viewers already out there, and if you are watching, please let us know you're watching, so we'll give you a shout out. You know, my biggest fan, is Jennifer Neighbors, is watching, and we appreciate you and love you, baby. And also Miss Melissa, she's always a big fan of the show. So let's get into the biggest topic of the day, and I kind of really want to get some information from you on this because we've talked about before, as a segue into this conversation, we've talked about cancel culture before. You and I've had this
Mhm.
kind of conversation, and I just want to know where you stand on what is happening with John Gruden. And I know when we first talked about having this conversation, more things have come to light, but knowing what you know before and what you know now, did your mindset transition over into something, or has it been the same since the outset of all these things that came out?
So I definitely changed opinions when the latter came out, right?
Mm,
At first I was like, eh, it was 2011. We're in 2021. I'm not down with having someone step down, get fired for something they said 10 years ago. Whether you view it as being racist or not, you know, because I read in there where he said he calls liars rubber lips. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. That's why you called them rubber lips. Um, Even if you weren't, and you were talking about it because a common thing to say is that black people have big lips, right? Um, Even if he was saying that, I'd still let him slide. That's not that bad. Whatever. You may be being a little bit racist, but hey, now when these emails came out with everything else of him, first off, when you're talking shit about your boss in a work email, which baffles me to begin with, um, that was mind blowing. What he had to say about the gay community, and what he had to say about players, Eric Reed, and what he had to say about people kneeling for something that had nothing to do with the flag, all those extra emails, that's when my attitude changed and my stance changed towards John Gruden. Um, am I up in arms about the whole situation? No, but I'm more so like, 2018 wasn't too long ago, and you're an idiot for having these conversations on NFL emails, which makes no sense to me. But I think him stepping down slash getting fired is what needed to be done now.
You know, I'm going to start by saying there was a coach for used to coach for a former coach, Dennis Green, coach for the Minnesota Vikings, who said they are who we thought they are. And I will tell you, I have told my friends this from way back. John Gruden shouldn't even have a coaching job. I don't think he's ever earned it. I don't want to repeat some of the things that you probably heard on ESPN, but I've actually said this. We all know he inherited a team from Charlie Dungy. He did carry that team over to the next level, get them over the top. Congratulations. But then after that season, that team was decimated. He never carried on. He's the Barry Switzer of the NFL. You inherited a good team, and then you became a nothing after that. Now, to the emails, I will tell you this. I kind of want to have, I've been kind of really kind of thinking about this because I knew we were going to talk about it. But I was like, 2014, 2011, whatever. He's not even the coach. He's calling Monday Night Football or sitting in his living room chair about to call Monday Night Football. I don't care. He's a private individual. Let him do whatever he wants. If he says some things that you don't like, that's his opinion, man. Let him do it. It might be bigoted, racial, whatever. And I will tell you this, though. If you call somebody, compare somebody's lips to Michelin tires, the only intent you have is to be racist. That's it. You might think it's funny, but the only intent by doing that is to be have some type of racial undertones behind it. Period. So having said that, I was on the mindset of, dude, let this guy, maybe he's contrite and move on, and then the other shoe dropped. And then I'm sitting there saying, okay, why? Who's that Who's stupid? Even to this day, I'll have a conversation with one of my closest coworkers, and he and I will get on a conversation, and then all of a sudden we're like on the channels of our employer. Then we say, wait a minute, stop. Let's get off just in case and talk on our cell phones just in case somebody, somewhere finds out something. And it's not even close to what this guy did. So what that told me though is that he felt comfortable doing it. He felt that he was going to be accepted. Nobody was going to say anything. This is probably something that the person on the other end also felt, and they had talked about it in person or on the phone. And he just felt he let his guard down and thought that he was in the locker room, basically. So he showed again to me by those emails that he is who we thought he was, who I thought he was.
Yeah. And I agree with you, right? This year the Raiders are doing okay, right? Um, but all years prior, I agree with you. He didn't deserve to be a coach.
All I can say is,
Um,
but you know what? Let me tell you this too. He when he said something in his interview, he says, "I'm not going to talk about. I don't want to keep talking about this," and it's almost kind of like where he was like, "You know what? I offended people, but when I tell you I'm done talking about it, you guys should all get over it and let's move on because at the end of the day, it's still all about me." But now he's not in the job and he can cry himself all the way home. That's all I can tell you. Just go ahead and cry, cry, and cry some more.
I like that fancy stuff you
Do
do.
you see
He's
what I'm doing?
still he's still gonna get paid that $11 million though, because I think didn't he sign or it was $8 million? He signed a 6 year, $8 million contract, I think,
Well,
something
no,
like
he
that.
signed a 10-year, $100 million contract.
Oh, I guess my numbers are way off.
Way off. Yeah,
Maybe they were saying they only are gonna pay him $6 million or
they
something like that.
might.
I thought I read that.
We might have to have a researcher, somebody who can be our master researcher on our podcast. But
Hmm.
I think they may have to pay him through this season, and that's where
Hmm.
that figure may come. But after that, you're. It's not like you are being let go because you're not producing, which he wasn't. He's not going to make that team's never going to go to a playoff or Super Bowl under his tutelage. So at the end of the day, get your money, John Gruden. Go ahead and get your money, and then go off to the sunset somewhere, and the NFL and the football uh, community will never hear from you ever again. And the sad thing is, Jay Gruden, his brother, is probably going to have to hear about this for a long time to come, as long as he's in the NFL.
Oh, for sure. And it definitely affected him. It's going to affect him professionally as well.
Hmm.
Um, One of the things, though, that in a sense as well, that I feel like could be negative to the entire sport is, did this open up Pandora's box? Did this open up to where everyone's emails are going to start getting combed through, to find something, anything that's been said, because regardless of what you think, even though I think it's ignorant to have personal conversations on a work email, I never do this either.
Hmm.
Um, Same as you. Um, People slip up, you know. So what happens when we find a coach that, you know, someone said something, yada yada, and like, wow, that's gay, and they're like, so and so is homophobic, fire him. When, it used to be acceptable to, when someone was talking about something, you'd be like, man, that's gay, dude. And it wasn't
Well,
meant in a derogatory way.
hold on. Let me address that,
Hmm.
and hopefully give you some food for thought. And by the way, guys, I see we got some viewers out there. If you're looking in, if you've got some comments that you want to share, there are two things. We can invite you to the podcast. You can be on camera and join us, or we'll answer your questions live as we're continuing to go on. So if you're on Facebook or YouTube and you would like to express your opinions, we'll be more than happy to get those on the air and respond to you directly. So my question, my rebuttal to you is this: there was a time growing up playing basketball at the rec centers and hanging out with the guys. We used to use the N word all the time. We used to say
Hmm.
this, and then we used profanity all the time. Then you go into a workplace. You don't say those words. You don't
Right.
do those things. And it's not like it's like, oh, it's hard for me. Oh, I almost slipped up. It's a common thing. Your brain is smart enough to know that I have to have a filter because this is where I'm at. It's like you go to church. You don't go in there and use profanity. If you're around your parents, you don't go around using profanity. Those are the things that are just built into people with common sense. Let me put it that way. If you've got common sense, those things kind of transpire. But then I'll also tell you this. I get around with my golf buddies and we say some things. We're
Hmm.
all joking. And there's times where you go, if you say it in jest, then people should take it in jest. But if you're saying it like he said it in an email, I don't care if it's from 1914. If you said it and it said it repeatedly, that indicates that there's a problem, an indication of your character.
Hmm.
And no LOL at the end, or I'm just joking. You know how you can say a fat joke, or you can say this kind of joke, and then you say,
Right.
"Oh, I'm sorry, I was LOL. I didn't really mean that." That's what I'm talking about here. And he had no, and then he wasn't even contrite when he tried to apologize. There was no contrition in that. And then he sat there and said, I don't know if you caught this on his thing. He's on his interview when he stood up on the podium after the game. I'm happy and proud of who I am as a person.
Hmm. I did see that. And
And no,
so
knowing he
hopefully,
said these other emails.
yeah. I don't To just piggyback on what you said, whenever he said the NFL should stop drafting queers, I was like, wow, who says that, first off? And second
Mm-hmm,
off, now I really know your stance. Because,
mm-hmm.
that's just off the wall. I honestly can tell you wholeheartedly, I've never even used that word before. That word has never left my mouth,
No,
you know? And I
no.
just, because one, like, I just feel like that's an odd word to say in the first place.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And then for someone to use in a derogatory term like that, when you had Carl Nassib, I think that's how you say his last name, as the
mm-hmm.
first openly gay NFL player that was currently playing, and
Right.
then that's your stance on the whole situation. I bet you his butt puckered up and he was like, "Oh shit, I hope this never comes out."
Yeah,
You know.
but let me ask you this question though: Is queer a derogatory term?
I mean,
Somebody
to
let me
be
know.
honest with you, I feel like anything besides homosexual is a derogatory term, right? Just to be completely honest with you.
You
Now,
think
I'm
homosexual is
I'm
a
born
derogatory
in
term?
no, 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 no. I said anything besides homosexual is a
Okay.
derogatory term. So,
Okay.
because when you say someone is homosexual, you're saying they like the same sex. That's the correct term to use.
Well,
Someone's
well,
transgender. I don't call them. You don't say, "Hey, look at that tranny" or whatever. You say, "Hey, that person's transgender," because
mhm.
you know, calling them a tranny would be a derogatory thing to say. Even it's a short word. So I think and
well, well,
go
Melissa, who's our viewer, she's actually saying the things that we were talking about, how you can transition from outside and hanging in the rec center and then to your job is based upon your age. Uh, but that's my point too. He's older than me. But she's saying if you're in the 60th range, you might call people queer as a derogatory term. Okay, I get that. If you're saying that because that was your and that was our. I'm not saying this to use it in a derogatory term, but I'm using it as a reference, people. So don't go back and say we are homophobics on this podcast. But faggot used to be our derogatory term growing up in the 80s, and I just assumed, I guess, queer for that generation before us was that same derogatory term. But
yeah, saying that is the same thing as dropping the hard R now.
yeah, but right now,
That's the word you don't use.
that's the words you don't, man. You catch some blows. But I will
Yeah.
tell you this though, queer is being accepted because that's part of the LBGQT community, right?
Hmm.
Q is the queer. So
Mm, okay.
uh, I'm not gonna say that he didn't intend it to be harmful. Well, you know his intent, but there were some other things that were a little bit, to me, in my opinion, a little bit more severe on from what he said, based upon, and then the whole thing about the woman uh, referee. That I just don't understand where that came from. Where do you get off talking about women can't be referees? It's just that was hard for me to believe.
See,
Who
I
is
have a
John
stance,
Gruden?
right? See, I have a stance, and it may, a lot of people do not agree with it. But in my opinion, if you're going to speak about a sport at the ESPN shows where the entire panel is ex NFL players, those are my favorite shows to watch. I don't watch First Take anymore. I can't because I can't stand Stephen A. Smith. I don't watch Get Up. Um, so what I try to watch is just panels of NFL players. Especially what's his name? God, is it McCaffrey? God, what was his first name? The kicker that has the podcast, and then it turned into a show. Um,
I'm not sure.
anyways, one of them has a
Well,
show on
you
ESPN
got a
now.
lot of them. So, what about Shannon Sharp? You don't watch this show?
No, I do not watch that. I don't watch matches where they just yell to try to get their points across. I
So,
I
I
don't
understand.
like that.
Listen, that's your opinion, and that's how you feel. But
Right.
this is half the referees that are in the NFL have never played the sport. If not all of the majority of them. I would say I'm going
I'd
to
have
put
to
it out there.
disagree on
The
that.
majority of the referees in the game have never played a down of professional football. Okay, that's number one. And number two, some of the best commentators, in my opinion, have been those who have a degree in journalism. The
Hmm.
greenies, the who's the guy? Mike Costas, Bob Costas, sorry. Those guys, Howard Cosell, those guys are famous for their craft and being able to break down footage. And there's a lot of coaches that never played the game. It's starting to become more and more of like a thing where ex NFL players are coming in and starting to coach. But there's a lot of
Right.
coaches that have never played the game and have been successful. Bill Belichick never played a down of professional football.
Uh,
He's a professional. He was not an NFL player.
but he may have played college. I would say college though, and playing
You
college
said,
is still next level, right?
well,
I know, I
I'm just saying.
understand. I said the highest level, right?
Hmm, hmm,
Um,
hmm.
I could understand a college player though, you know what I mean? Because it still takes you still take the you still take the country's kids, and I think it's less than 5% of kids in high school go to the next level, and then or I think it's 1% because they say 1% of the 1% go to the NFL, you
Hmm,
know.
hmm.
So I think it is 1% of kids go play college football, and then 1% of that 1% goes to the NFL.
Well, let me ask you this
So
question. So
regardless, you're
let
still playing at a very high level.
Well, let me also say this, Stephen A. Smith, if you ever get wind of this podcast and you hear the dribble that this guy has said about not liking you, please take that as one-sided and also as an invitation to come on the podcast and eat his lunch on a debate. Because I would welcome that. Because I'm just letting you know that this whole segment right here that he's talking about is, in the words of Stephen A. Smith, makes no sense. Because let me tell you right now, Trey, I am probably 100% better at football, basketball than you are, and you've played in high school. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking.
I, I know you're joking. That's why I'm laughing. I don't even have to take that serious.
uh, you
No,
understand?
but it's who's the best commentator right now? Because again, these are my opinions, right? When I say
Well,
best,
I
I mean
think are
like
you talking about football?
right. Who's the best NFL commentator right now?
What
Because
what
for
I think
one,
what I think you're going to say is Tony
you
Romo,
know who I'm going to say. Yes, and he is. He
but I
breaks down plays before they happen. He tells you what's going to happen. He says the slot's going to run a post. You got your outside guy. He's going to run the back shoulder fade. Your running back's going to chip block, and run a wheel route. The ball snaps. The the running back chips, runs a wheel route. The
well
outside receiver runs your back shoulder fade. I mean, he just dissects plays and gets people to understand them in a fundamental way.
let me
You
ask
know
you
what I
this
mean?
question then. Let me ask you this: What
And
was
hold on, I want to finish real quick.
go ahead.
Anyone can have a unique voice and say, "Oh man, that guy's a great athlete. Look at that throw. Look at the arm on that guy." And you should figure out who I'm talking about, Collinsworth.
Yeah. Well, but you got to understand too. Also, if you really break it down, Tony Romo is not a play-by-play announcer. He's the analyst. He's the guy who's supposed to tell you as you break down the plays what happened. But he's not sitting there telling you, okay, under snap, we've got Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott steps back. He's got a three-step drop, passes it off to Zeke, blah, 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 blah. Tony Romo doesn't have that crap. But if you're trying to get
Mhm.
somebody to help you analyze what's happening, that is what good players and former players, I believe, are good at, like you said. They are really good about breaking down the plays and helping us see things that we didn't see.
I agree. I really do think times are changing from that point though.
Mm,
Because first off, and I mean radio transmission's gonna die probably in the next 15 years. There probably won't be such a thing as radios anymore, right? And when I say radios, I'm talking about radios in a vehicle. You know what
mhm,
I'm saying? You may
mhm.
still have like the Pandoras and stuff like that, but there's not gonna be a traditional radio station, which is why I think things like 105.3 The Fan and stuff like that are gonna die off here pretty soon. So you're not gonna get the need for that play-by-play announcer is gonna be gone, and it's all gonna be because
And
we're not
replaced
getting
by
off
what?
track regardless. We're getting to the point where cars are driving itself. You'll be able to watch TV in the car, so you won't need that play by play. And it's gonna get to that point.
Let me, before you get to that point, I will tell you, before they ever get to that point, they would drop the in in stadium announcers way before they dropped the color play-by-play televised announcers. And I tell you right now,
Right.
that's part of the ambiance when you go to some of these games is hearing
Mhm.
that over the speaker PA guy who's actually calling the plays and getting getting those stands cheered up. But I digress. I'd like to see how things are innovative and brought to the forefront. Um,
Hmm.
but I don't know if I would be willing to watch a game that didn't have some sort of play-by-play commentary.
I can understand where you're coming from.
I
I
could
mean, I
see
would
this.
tell you,
Have you seen the Monday night? Have you seen the Monday night with the Manning brothers, Peyton and Eli
yes,
Manning?
I have, and it is comedy.
Yeah,
It's
it's
comedy.
great. It's greatness.
But again, that's not play by play. That's them having a conversation while watching football. And
That's
because
us.
it's the sheriff, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? The
Hmm.
sheriff and his little brother out there, you know
Hmm.
what I mean? That's what makes it comedy. Because you
Hmm.
couldn't put two random people up there and have them do the same thing and have the same reaction, though. Even if
Well,
they had the same personality, did the same funny stuff, it wouldn't have the same reaction if it wasn't Eli and Peyton Manning.
true story because of their personalities. That
Yes.
brings them 100% into uh, uh, what I think is makes that comedy gold. All right, just real quick, I want to give everybody a shout out. Thank you guys for watching. We are Drinks and Discussions alongside myself, Brian. We've got Trey, who's helping me host this evening. We've already talked about John Gruden, some of the missteps he had. We've got some people out there who are watching us. If you're out there and you want to put something in the chat, feel free to do so. We'd love to hear what you have to say about the topics that we have. And then also maybe give us a little bit more perspective or a different perspective on what you would do or what you think about some of the topics that we have here. You know, I was going to talk about Sage Steele in the same breath as this John Gruden thing, and I just think that
Hmm.
that's going to take up a whole lot more time.
Yeah.
Did you listen to the podcast with Jay Cutler?
I got 15 minutes in and turned it off. I got
Okay.
out of it what I needed in the 15 minutes, to be
Oh,
honest
okay.
with you. I just,
Okay.
can you really vilify people? I honestly, to tell you the truth, I don't want to say what I think about it, to
No,
be
go ahead.
honest with you.
Listen, we'll make it a quick segment. Go ahead because let me tell you why I wanted to have this conversation.
Hmm.
It's because I know you are a person of multiracial background,
Right.
and I am also, and deep in my ancestry, I am also from a diverse and multicultural background.
Hmm.
So that's why I wanted to bring this up because we've got nephews, nieces, and everybody in our family. It's just a hodgepodge of just different people and different colors. So that's kind of just wanted to see what your take is. So share.
So, as far as I got into the podcast, she